Welcome to Behind the Mic, the deep dive behind radio theology. Here are your hosts, Daron Earlywine, Lisa Graff, and Ryan Allward.
Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Mic, the spiritual deep dive episode of radio theology. Pastor Daron Earlywine here with Ryan and Lisa. Guys, March 1st edition of this episode, and we are clipping right along in life. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but life goes pretty quickly.
Yes.
Sure does.
I mean, I feel like Sunday night happens, and I think about, okay, here's my week. And then I kind of like blink, and then it's Thursday.
Yeah.
And then the weekend happens again, and then I'm like, I'm 42.
Yep.
And my kids are 15, 13, and 9.
Yeah.
It's flying. And what I'm noticing is it does not seem like it's slowing down. It feels like it's just picking up speed. And I think all of us are probably feeling that. And I think that's why finding external helps, external aids to help life slow down so we make sure we don't, A, waste our life, or B, completely miss it, are great things like the season we're in right now, which is the Lent season that the traditional church calendar gives us. If you're new to church or to spirituality, and so listening to radio theology has been one of your first deals, we don't want to talk over your head or below you today or whatever. We just want to educate you on some of the structure that God has given us to find balance. And Lent is one of those. We educated you a little bit this week in some fun ways with Dr. Wigglebottom about the origin and the history of Lent. And just to bring some levity and fun to Behind the Mic, we're gonna pop in right now our segment where Dr. Wigglebottom gave us an overview of the history and understanding of Lent. Here it is from our show this week. Dr. Wigglebottom, welcome to the studio.
Yes, hello. Thank you for having me.
Welcome back.
Always love being on radio theology.
Well, can you educate us about Lent?
I would be happy to. Lent, which derives from Lenten in Old English, meaning springtime, or quadragesima in Latin, meaning 40th, is a 40-day solemn religious observance in the Christian calendar. It begins officially on Ash Wednesday, a day when non-Christians around the world awkwardly stare at Christians' foreheads in confusion, and ends approximately 6 weeks later before the joyful celebration of Easter Sunday, which commemorates the resurrection of Jesus. Now, Lent is preceded by Fat Tuesday, otherwise known as Mardi Gras or Carnival, in which hedonistic revelers prepare for an extended period of spiritual discipline by drinking their faces off and demanding that topless women throw beaded necklaces at them.
Whoa, that escalated quickly.
Woo! Ironically, the word carnival is derived from carne vale, meaning farewell to meat in Latin. Or cheap cruise line you might get the coronavirus on.
Carnival.
Sorry, Carnival. Try Royal Caribbean instead. Anyway, the purpose of Lent is the spiritual preparation of the Christian for Easter through prayer, repentance of sins, and self-denial. Many Christians commit to fasting, as well as giving up certain luxuries in order to replicate the sacrifice of Jesus' journey into the desert for 40 days shortly after his baptism. I'm sure you've all heard of that story.
Yes, thank you, Wigglebottom.
Well, because apparently nothing says, I'm trying to grow closer to Jesus, like abstaining from $6 frappuccinos or scrolling through strangers' lives on Instagram for a month and a half. Wow. You really sacrificed a lot there, Donna. We're all proud of you. Many Roman Catholic and some Protestant churches remove flowers from their altars during Lent, while crucifixes, religious statues, and elaborate symbols are often veiled in violet in solemn observance of the event. Why the color violet? No one asked. Well, I'll tell you. Most scholars believe that purple was a symbol of royalty in ancient times. In the Gospel of Mark, Jesus was clothed mockingly in a purple robe by his Roman executioners before the crucifixion, an event which is commemorated, of course, on Good Friday. Would you like to hear a joke that I came up with about Lent?
I've been waiting the whole time.
It's not really about Lent at all. It's just funny.
Okay.
What do you call it when Batman leaves church early?
I have no idea.
Lisa?
Same.
Christian Bale. Hey!
Oh, I shouldn't have laughed. I
That's
take
bad.
my laugh back. Do you have another one?
No, it's the only one I had. There aren't a lot of Lenten puns, but Easter coming up soon, I've got you covered. While Lent has several weeks left in it, this episode of Holiday History sadly does not. I'm Professor Horatio Wigglebottom, and I'll see you again soon for St. Patrick's Day, only on Radio Theology.
You got to love Wigglebottom.
I love him.
He's a fun guy.
Just a brilliant man.
Yes.
Full of useless trivia.
And yes, hilarious.
He
I
loves
missed-
puns.
I'm sad he didn't have a lot of puns, but it's, not a lot of Lent puns.
Not a lot of Lent
Yeah,
puns.
yeah.
No, not so much.
Oh,
Yeah, I think the Catholic jokes I looked up weren't appropriate for the show.
I would imagine not.
Yeah.
Hey, we have Easter to
Breeze
look
right
forward
past
to.
that,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So now you know
I know
what
what
Lent...
the church did with the whole. Never mind.
Oh, no, nope.
Whoopsies. No, we're not going there.
Now you know what Lent's about.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the quotes that we shared and just talked about is that this is really a season of learning to tell yourself no.
Yeah.
And I've done a couple extended fasts in my life. I think maybe in years past here on Radio Theology, we've talked about it. The most aggressive one I ever did was I literally did a 40-day fast.
No food?
No food.
How did
So-
you stay alive?
I
mean, I know
know.
the people have done it, but the people are Jesus and you.
Chicken broth, beef broth, Gatorade, coffee, water.
Why did you do it? How did you stay alive? And what did doctors say to you about?
I didn't consult a physician.
And also, what did you learn?
I
Maybe most
consulted the
important.
great physician.
Oh, amen. Jesus, you.
Oh, wow.
Here's what happened. I could tell that my flesh or my sinful nature was running the show a lot too often in my life,
Okay.
and I was like, I gotta do something. And for me, I'm kind of a guy of extremes, so I was like, I need to do something extreme to just reset this whole situation. And there was some, whether it was reading in the Word or things, I just over a season of time, I felt like God was saying, like, I want you to really embrace self-discipline. I want you to really embrace an idea of, and I want you to think about this fast. So for me, it was like, let's go. How about 40 days? So I did a little research on it, enough to know what I could and couldn't do. And I did a Lenten fast, which here in the season of Lent, where basically you celebrate the resurrection of Christ every Sunday. So Sundays, I would allow myself to eat.
Whoa. How much food did you eat on Sundays?
I'd put it down.
Oh, yeah.
There was one time I was in a Steak and Shake drive-thru at 11:59.
Oh, yeah.
And it went midnight, and I was like, oh, yes, I need the biggest thing of fries you have, and I'm going to need the extra cheese sauce,
Oh, yeah.
which was actually can be counterproductive because after, like, the third day of not eating, your body goes into, like, I'm sure if my friend Brent was here who can tell you all the things that your body does, but
Yeah, like a starvation mode.
it goes into starvation mode.
Yeah.
And so it stops, it kind of shuts down, and you don't actually feel that hungry the rest of the week. But then once you reintroduce food on Sunday, not only was there a lot of cramps and other things, but it tasted great. So yeah, here's what I found. One of the most difficult thing for me is the weird stuff about like not chewing started to mess with my brain.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Like
I can see that.
you get 3 or 4 days in, and you're like, I've not chewed anything up for days,
Yeah.
right? But here's what I found is I had never understood in the scriptures where it talks about, I believe it's in Galatians chapter 5, when it talks about that the Spirit of God within you and your flesh, your sinful nature, are at odds. And I knew that, and I could sense it in a moment of temptation or whatever. Like I kind of got it, but over 40 days of every single day, I had to tell my flesh, no, you're not like the two greatest things we have, right? We got to breathe,
Yeah.
and we got to eat and drink. Those are our three. So I'm telling my flesh that no, you won't eat today, every day for 40 days. I got such a clear distinction of what was my flesh in that voice inside my head and what was the Holy Spirit. I began to realize how much of all of life is structured to appease our fleshly desires.
Oh, yeah.
So watching TV, I'd never noticed this, but there's a pattern to TV commercials, and they appeal to the three core temptations that the devil uses. And we actually shared in Bible story time this week is the story of Jesus out in the desert. But the same temptations that come to Adam and Eve that come to Jesus are summarized in the book of 1st or 2nd John, I believe. I probably should have looked that up before we started recording this, where he says the three things of life are the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eye, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. And those are the three categories that the devil used on Adam and Eve, that he used on Jesus, and he uses on us all the time. And what I began to realize is when you watch a commercial break on TV, is the commercials go in that pattern. Mm-hmm. It's lust of the flesh, right? So it's something you want, usually an amazing Pizza Hut commercial.
Right.
They've got these new like Papa John. They're like foldy. It's like if you made a quesadilla with pizza. Have you seen these things?
I
They're
have
called
not.
Papa Diaz.
Oh.
I have not,
Dude.
but I am currently intrigued.
They look so good. I
Not
don't know
fasting today.
Not passive, yeah.
I don't know who makes these things on the set of the commercial, but it looks so
Have you
good.
seen the Pizza Hut pizzas now that have the mozzarella bites on top of the crust?
No.
So it's not in the crust. There's like regular crust, but then they have
Yeah.
glued a piece of hard deep fried cheese
Yeah.
on top of
That's
the.
what we need.
Yeah.
That's what we need.
So you have that commercial. And
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah.
and if you haven't eaten for 6 days,
Yeah.
you're like, I wonder if I could jump through my TV.
Yeah.
Right. Then the next one would be, let's say it's a Victoria's Secret ad or something selling you sex.
Yep.
Okay.
So you'd be like, ooh, lust of the flesh. Yes, I would love to eat. Then the next one is like, here's something tantalizing. Is that the right word?
Yes.
Right? So now I've
the
got the lust of the eyes going on. And then the next one would be, a Cadillac commercial or something about a house or something of this pride of life stuff I need.
Yeah.
And I'm realizing, like, if I'm not paying attention, I'm being pre-programmed every commercial break, and there's a pattern to it.
Yeah.
Because I can remember I'd watch a freaking Pizza Hut commercial like that, and I couldn't take it. And I would go. I did it multiple times. I would go into, usually towards the end of the week, I'd go into the pantry and I would get chips, and I would chew up chips just to taste them and feel food being crunched up, and I would spit it out in the trash can.
Oh my gosh.
Because just
That's self-control right
it was
there.
but it was a mind thing.
Yeah.
But it helped
Yeah.
me. But here's the thing: I lost 25 pounds
Whoa.
during the time.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I took a passport picture at the end of that, and I look like oh, here's where Daron almost died.
Totally emaciated.
Yeah,
look
my head
sickly.
looks like it's a pumpkin on top of a
Can we see that
scarecrow.
sometime?
No. But it was a transformative time
Yeah.
for me. And I think the saddest thing I realized during that is I was doing this 40-day fast. And, oh, wait, which one? I'm getting it confused because then years later I did a Daniel fast where I could do fruits and veggies and whatever. Both of the fasts, here's what I realized. The second one I did, the church I was working at, we were remodeling the church.
Okay.
So we had a deadline. We had to get the church open by Easter, and we were the remodeling crew.
Wow.
And so this is supposed to be a time where you replace the time you would regularly eat or whatever it is with time with God. Mm-hmm. Well, everybody would break for lunch, and I'm like, well, I'm not eating, I'm fasting. And I would just work all the way through lunch. And so I realized, one of the things I realized in that fast was like, hey, you can say no to food for 40 days and you'll still find a reason not to spend time with God.
Jeez.
So then that was like, now I'm hungry and really sad that I've got a real clear picture of what's really motivating me. But if you've never experimented with fasting, it's taught me more than maybe anything else in my life.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a food faster because I have a crazy metabolism. Maybe this is just an excuse, but my
It is, but
metabolism
go ahead.
is it's so fast that my blood sugar drops and I get I get headaches, I can't function, and so
Yeah.
I'm like, nah, pass.
Right.
But I did a social media fast back in December when I took a sabbatical and just realized how many times I would just reach for my phone.
Oh yeah.
It was wild. And then I'm like, and then when you stop doing it, like you still reach for your phone. Like, what? Oh, why am I paying attention to something in line?
Yeah.
I'm seeing others around me. Wait a second. Oh, this is how people used to live.
Yeah.
Not
this
too
is
long
how
ago either.
relationships happen,
Yeah.
you know? And so I did learn a lot about that. But it's kind of like the same thing of, when I try to give up alcohol or whatever, I reach for it and then think, oh, wait a second. Why am I doing this? So it's just the practice of stopping and asking yourself at least the question why.
Yeah.
and sometimes I don't like the answer, and sometimes I do it anyway, and then sometimes I don't like the answer and I stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Ryan,
we're
what about
being
you?
real.
Have I ever fasted?
Yeah.
I did it like once, and I lasted till like 4:30 that day.
Yeah.
It was not good. I was just like, let's
Yeah.
give it a shot. And I remember my buddy, I think he might still work there. There's a Catholic church in town that has like a really nice, like a prayer walk, like an outside garden kind of prayer walk thing. And I was like, that might be kind of cool to incorporate into the whole fasting thing. Let's give that a shot. And that was cool.
Yeah.
But man, halfway through it, I'm just like, wow. Ironically, I didn't bite off anything more than I could chew. I didn't chew anything, but I have bitten off more than I could chew with this. I bet I could probably, I don't know, I could probably do a fast.
Have you ever done anything
this
else?
go around.
Have you ever done anything else like social media or a non-food related thing?
Nope, I haven't. I mean, that's,
Never practice self-denial, huh?
and sometimes no self-discipline. If we're gonna be real,
How is that going for you?
let me tell you what the past 38 years have been like.
Okay.
Like, I like to say that I don't do average, but there's plenty of areas in my life that are just like barely a C.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've got a lot. I think, now here's a theory. I envied the men in my family who were in the military because everything was so rigid and structured for them.
Yeah.
Even like, hey, you're moving here now. It was just like it was an assignment.
Yeah.
Or like, hey, you're being deployed. It's like, okay.
It's like respond to orders. You're not figuring this out. You're just responding to orders.
Right. And I think in a way I envied that because it's like, you're up. You would get booted if you didn't meet certain physical, like you had a test like every year that you had to pass. And it's like you had to train for it. And it's like, man, there are, okay, I'm not comparing the military at all to the performing arts.
Disclaimer.
But there were moments, I shouldn't say that I've never been disciplined, but like when it's like, okay, we're putting on a show, we're putting on a run of shows. Gosh, I did 90 shows in 2 summers with my old group out in Atlantic City, like however many years ago. And it was a sit down residency. And those rehearsals were like extremely disciplined. Like the creative process before that was extremely disciplined, like writing every single day, arranging every single day, hitting the gym. Like you got to look good. You got to sound good. You got to like hit your marks. You got to do all that. So in a way, like, performing arts isn't saving the world or protecting freedom, but it's like there are bursts of discipline in my life. But
Well, I think some of it though is it's not that I'm not letting you off the hook of realizing that there may be something to look at self-discipline wise. But what I will say is, when you find something that you really want, you have it within you.
Sure.
I mean, even look at knowing your life and being a part of your life right now. I mean, what you've had to do with this, with your diet change, with the whole allergy thing we talked about, and like your challenge to get to the gym every day and the whole sweat check, like there's things you're doing. The fact that you said last year, like, I'm going to release a song every month. Yeah. Well, you had to be disciplined and structured to do that. So I think all of us probably have an area of our life where it's easier, and it might be an area where we get a little bit more pay back for it. It feels like it's like there is a part where I want to sacrifice here. So it's discipline, but it's not a lot of self-sacrifice. Maybe.
Yeah.
That's a good distinction.
But I think and I love that we've got a little smattering of it, because that's, we're talking to you and you're probably saying, man, I love it. I'm totally disciplined. I do the fasting, or I don't, or you've never done it. So welcome to the conversation of figuring it out. I think the thing that we talked about in the show that I don't like that it's true, but it's true. And even though me saying like, I knew the power of fasting, but for the past couple of Lents, like even this one, we got to Wednesday and I'm like, oh yeah, probably should have like given something up, because I know the value of self-discipline and it's really helped me in the past, but but okay, maybe I'll get around to it, which is not great. But the idea of where in my life am I telling myself no?
Yeah, that's a really hard way to put it. I don't like that. I don't need to fast.
Yeah.
But when do I tell myself no?
I'm kind of having a somewhat of a clarity come to me as we're talking about this, because I think fasting could look to someone who's not, or Lent or church in general, I don't know, could look to someone who's not necessarily a believer as just going through the motions. It's something that you're trying to do to, get an A+ on your faith report card. But I think in the big scheme of things, maybe it's more to prepare us individually to let go of everything at some point. Like we're all going to have to let go of everything in that moment where we die.
Yeah.
And I think it's like this daily death to say, okay, let's prep you for the ultimate transition into the life after. It's like you're going to have to let go of everything that people have said about you, everything that you've thought about you. You're going to have to let go of everything you've acquired. You're going to let go of every relationship that God has given you, every victory, every failure, everything you're going to have to ultimately say goodbye to.
Yeah.
And you have no control over that. Like we're all terminal, and so maybe this fasting process is not to, I don't know. In many ways, it's like going to the gym. It's like reps for the big game, so to speak. I don't know. Is it a match? Is it a game? I didn't. Sports balls. I didn't really do sports.
Well, I agree. That's it is. I think for the end, but I think even more, pertinent right now is I think it's a preparation for whatever that next thing that God's inviting you into.
Yeah, and
that's why I love the image of seeing, that Jesus did a 40-day fast right before he went to ministry. Like he gets baptized. He's not done any cool Jesus-y stuff yet.
Yeah.
And his father says, hey, guys, I want you to know this is my son, who I'm well pleased. Not because he's done the miracles, not because he's walked on water, not because he's done. I love him for who he is. So he cements Jesus' identity. Mm-hmm. And then he says, okay, now you're clear on identity. Now we need to go get clear on who's running your life. Like, who are you going to be dependent on? Who is really master of your life? You know who you are, but who's running it? And for Jesus to go and to deal with all of the same struggles, temptations. I mean, he was a fully man, fully God, so he knew what hunger felt like. Like he knew what it was like. I haven't chewed up a chip, and he didn't have Doritos, but I'm sure he could have been craving them. And then he has these same temptations that get to us. Hey, the devil's like, hey, you want all the power? You want all the fame?
Yeah.
You want to be God? And Jesus having to say, no, I'm going to tell myself no, and I'm going to tell the devil no, because I want to be ready to say yes to the ultimate mission God has given me.
Yeah.
What we know about you is God's created you on purpose and for a purpose. Your purpose is not going to be saving the world. You're not Jesus, right? There is a purpose that God has invited you into. And Ryan, what I loved what you talked about about preparing for death is that every image and every ritual that God has given us in the church, it's to cement the same process that life comes from death.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You look at baptism. What are we declaring when we get baptized? We're declaring that life comes from death, like the water grave, and we emerge. When we do communion, like what are we reminding ourselves? Well, our life comes from his death. All these images bring this back to us that I think that's why fasting and these self-denial things are so important, because it's life coming through death, dying to the things that are maybe in control of you. And it's intimidating. And I would say it's not, it's not that it's, I think it is more important why you do it than what. We talked about that on the show as well. I think it can be absolutely empty. Like it's not a process where you're getting God to do something for you because you did something for him. I think it is a process of being able to allow him to reveal the things that you need to know. But I tell you what, it'll show you real quick who's really in charge of your life.
Yeah. And
if you want great things from your life and your stomach is in charge of you, like that, you're going to serve your stomach. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? If your pleasure is in charge of you, well, then like that's a tough mirror to look in, but I think it's so important.
Yes, I was having a real moment there, trying to gather myself. But it happened when you said, like we're going to cement the identity.
Yeah.
And then what did you say after that? Remember from the Bible, God saying, we're going to cement your identity, and then...
Oh, and then we're going to see who's in charge?
Then we're going to see who's in charge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Something about that resonated with me, and I'm going to figure that out. I can't put words to it right now, but...
It's all good.
Oh.
One thing you've done well, Lisa, and you talked about this week in Lisa's Pieces is, and we talk about it on the show often, is about the process of getting curious.
Yeah. Of
when something pings inside of you, go, that hit a little bit harder than normal. Mm-hmm. Of like, okay, let me take a minute and get a little bit curious. Ask myself some self-compassionate, good questions of, what was I thinking about there? Why would I be thinking that? You know,
Right.
what could that mean? Like, just investigate.
Right.
And oftentimes, if you're in at least a compassionate place and you get curious, it's amazing God's faithfulness to go, hey, maybe it's this.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well.
tough stuff. If you got ideas, stories, we'd love to hear from you. You can reach out to us at radiotheology.com, or you can email any of us, Daron, Ryan, or Lisa at blackbirdmission.com. And we'd love to be a part of your Lent journey, and we'll keep you updated on what we're figuring out in this as well. I wouldn't mind actually, I don't want to lose 25 pounds now, but I wouldn't mind if I could just fast forward to like no sacrifice, just think about it hard enough,
Yes.
and then poof,
Yeah.
look at me. I
Yeah.
lost
Gone.
20 pounds.
Yeah. That'd be nice.
If only.
If only. It doesn't happen like that.
No.
One of the other issues we talked about on this week's show was this idea of competition,
Yeah.
of being in a competition with each other or with ourselves even.
Yeah.
At least you brought that point out in Lisa's pieces, that you realized that so much of this guilt and stuff that gets stirred up in you is you realize, wait a second, I feel like I'm competing against the ghost of myself that is the perfect version of me.
Right. Well, and that's, if you know anything about perfection, you know that it's not real. It's not worth chasing. And so, yeah, that's been a struggle lately, I think. Just in the season that I'm in, just trying to figure out where all these things, I feel like I'm kind of just being tossed about sometimes.
Do you feel like, because I know we talked about it on the show a little bit, and then we were talking off air on it, it's some of this I feel like this we've talked about before, this idea of mom guilt, I feel like is a little more aggressive in the way that it hits women than the way that men deal with it. But I don't know, isn't it okay to be like, I guess I should not make the statement, I should ask a question. Is it okay to just admit that some moms are better at momming, or some women are better at it, and for us to be like, yeah, dude's better than me?
For sure.
I don't know, but it seems like, I feel like, and Ryan, we'll represent the men here because we're men. maybe I'm wrong. I need to think about it more deeply, but I feel like sometimes I can know it's like that guy's better than me at something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe it's because guys compete in sports more, so they're used to losing. But a lot of women play sports too. I don't know. Why do you think? I don't know. Speak about that.
Okay, I think that's fine to think that way because it's true. Like, some moms are better than me at this season, the toddler stage, the newborn stage, whatever
Sure.
it is.
Yeah.
Some women are lunch packing ninjas.
Yeah.
That's not me. I'm like, what do we have in the fridge? Here you go. And sometimes they get a piece of bread, right? Like, not just a piece of bread.
Yeah.
I mean, come on,
Yeah.
I'm not a monster. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't cut out hearts and stars and write love notes and all the
Right.
things. And so I think it's fine to say that, but it's what you do after you say that really matters. Like, because I can say that about anybody, about anything. Trying to think of a really good example, but one's escaping me. So, but it's fine to say she's better than me at this, but I don't need to let that be a reflection of me. That's a reflection of her in a celebratory way. Like, I don't need to invite that shame on me because she's better at me in the season.
I agree. You don't need to. It's obviously not helpful. It's just interesting to me because I do hear it from moms or women more often.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure there's many books written that we've yet to read that outline it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like sometimes when I see somebody that's better than me, like, I think maybe I try to receive it more as like inspiration.
Yeah.
Like, instead of being like, well, no, screw you because you freaking have 6-pack abs and you're doing this and like, you know, whatever, but to go, like, I was inspired by that. Let me see if I can't figure out, something. Like, I mean, thinking about that when you said that one dad asked you to spend time with his kid. And like, when you first told me that story, he basically, this dad, recruited like 12 men to mentor his kid, right?
Yeah.
For a year, just to spend an hour. And I remember right when you told me, I received it and I was like pissed. Like the first emotion was anger or disappointment. That like, dude, I missed my oldest son's 13th year. I could have done that. I'm not as good as dad as that kid. That'd be awesome. Why can't I think about that stuff? And then I was like, wait a second. I got 3 kids.
Right.
And I've got one that's going to turn. I could do that.
Yeah.
I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, right. That was inspiration, not I'm a lesser dad because of that.
Right.
But how do we keep something in? How can we turn those moments to inspiration rather than shame.
It's just the choice to do it. I mean, it's not like a 3-step plan. You just act.
Yeah.
You just do it. Like I remember seeing the group Take 6, this vocal group. They've won like probably 20, 25 Grammys. I mean, they're the baddest vocalists on the planet.
Yeah.
I will say it. Like, it's the nerdiest thing to say. But like those dudes, their arrangements, their original songs, their recordings, their soloists, there's never a bad note in 2 hours of them on stage. There's not even an off note. Like, everything is as it musically needs to be.
Right.
Creatively, they're off the charts. No measure is the same as the measure before. It's constantly this like one direction of just new things every single second. And I saw them once in California, and I'm like, dude, I might as well just give up. Seriously, I was just like,
that's a wrap.
Yep.
Yeah, like 2 hours at this venue is like, dude, they've got the corner on vocal music. Mm-hmm. Like, they're the baddest.
Yep.
They're awesome. And I even went up to one of the dudes, one of the guys, Mark Kibble, became our producer. We got to work with him for a season when I was in Straight No Chaser in my last year of the group, and really grateful for the friendship that came from that time with Mark. But I remember talking to him. I'm like, dude, that's it. I kind of jokingly was like, I give up. Wow. And he's like, no, don't do that. Like, go create what you need to create based on, it's like, we're not competing. It's like, we're not against each other. We're in the same business of making music together, or in your context, Lisa, raising children.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know. I think it's probably easier than we make it out to be, but it can be daunting. I totally get that.
Well, what keeps it? I'm trying to figure out because we're recording this as we go. Like, we don't stop and research. We're just talking. I'm trying to figure out what the difference, the other word would be, like that. It can become inspiration, or it becomes like a shame,
like a condemnation
thing. But I think another quote that's making me think, I think it's actually selfishness. Like, there's a narcissism there, in my opinion, right? Because I think maybe Eddie Van Halen said this. I'm not sure. I think somebody asked him. Maybe he was quoting somebody else. It's probably somebody better than Van Halen, like Mozart or something. But they asked, like, who was the greatest guitar player ever? And I think Eddie Van Halen said, well, true humility never makes comparisons.
Oh.
Right? And I tell my boys this all the time. Like, it doesn't matter who's the best on the team.
Yeah.
All you need to worry about is you being your best.
Right.
And are you a good baseball player? Yes, I'm a good baseball player. Then I don't care who's best.
Right.
You be your best. It's not a competition.
Yeah.
Like, because right when you start making comparisons, immediately either I'm arrogant because now I'm better and you have to be less, or I belittle you, you have to be less so I can be more. So everyone loses in it.
Yeah.
But I think there's a subtle deception of the devil there, where we could see something go, I'm not that. I'm inspired that I could get better, as opposed to this is somehow now all about me, and I beat myself up, and then I have to somehow pull you down.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes, I did that at the gym the other day. I used to be so much better at this, and so that's a frustration point, maybe a growth area. But I used to just completely unsubscribe, like as soon as a comparison, like I just literally wipe it from my brain. Have done that for years and years and years.
When you feel yourself comparing yourself.
When I feel, yes, exactly.
To another woman?
To anybody.
Oh, to anyone.
Yep. Doesn't matter what it is. But at the gym, I'm like, see this chick, and I'm like, okay. So I'm like, no. Then I'm like, okay, chick with the red pants, and did you really have to tie the knot up in the back of your shirt? Is that really loosen up the shirt so much that now you've got the range of motion you need?
Right.
Like, and so then I'm like, oh, you, and I'm like, what are you doing? I even said to myself, can't compete with that. And then I'm like, you're right. You don't have to compete with that.
Yeah.
And so then I found myself going, if I was brave enough, because right now I feel really stupid, if I was brave enough, I would go ask her a question, to learn from her, or something like that, because she's obviously doing a great job.
Right.
She's working really hard.
Yeah.
And I wanted to celebrate that after in my head, I was like, ew.
But see, this smacks against everything that's like survival of the fittest, social competition, all that stuff of like, The game in play is just survive,
Right.
Yeah.
win,
Yeah.
eat,
I tell you what,
pass on genes.
Yes.
You know,
I tell you, some of the most difficult people to be around I've ever experienced in my life are people that they have no ability to be happy for other people winning.
Yeah.
They're miserable to be around,
Yes.
and maybe that's an inspiration for us as we land the plane today. Of just, you don't want to be that person, and there's a lot of joy in being a cheerleading for everyone, knowing it's not a competition. You know what I mean? There's no scoreboard. You got to be the best you can be, and a part of that, to bring the other thought into it, the part of becoming the best person that you can be and the person God's created you to be might be found on the tail end of learning to tell yourself no,
Yes.
so that you can say yes,
Yes.
to all that life has for you.
If we can bring it full circle, I'll feed you the quote that you gave earlier,
Let's do it.
which was, if you say yes to everything you feel or everything you think or everything you want to do, you're going to find life telling you no to the dreams you were created to fulfill. Come on now.
I can't say it any better than that.
Nope.
Well, I did.
You already did.
Listen, have an amazing week. Thanks for listening to this episode of Behind the Mic, and we'll talk to you next time. And until we do, never forget this: God's for you, not against you. He's near you, not far from you, and He's created you on purpose and for a purpose. Talk to you next week.
Thanks for listening to Behind the Mic. For more episodes, go to radiotheology.com.